Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And our call-in number is 646-200-4169. If you have any questions, our topic is always on forgiveness, and then we go off onto other things that are related. And we're glad that you're with us today. If you have any questions, you could either ask it in the chat room, and then I will read it to Dr. Ryce, or you can call in. Again, that number is 646-200-4169. Michael.
Welcome. Another gorgeous day out here in Pahrump, Nevada. We're out in the desert. We're staying with a physician friend of ours here in Pahrump. And we're actually staying over on the California side of the border and out in the desert. And it's quite an interesting environment compared to South Florida, where we were last week. Anyway, it's a delight to be here. A delight to be having the opportunity and the ability to do this show, which is here to support you in learning the tools, the ancient Aramaic tools of forgiveness, communication, healing, and our MindShifters Radio comes from the fact that our support groups are called MindShifters support groups. And the idea, of course, is to be able to shift and change the content of our minds if we're living in a world of trauma or fear or pain or sadness or grief, which unfortunately is the condition of most of the world today. All of it's a fraud. All of it's unnecessary, which might be a shock if that's where you're living. One of my favorite lines from a text we teach from sometimes called The Course in Miracles is that problems are meaningless, but don't tell that to somebody that's in the middle of one. So if you're in the middle of one, I hope that we have to say will bring you some solace, some awareness and tools, and ultimately move you out of the insanity of the world and into a true human life, which is the stuff called love. That's what we're made of. That's the bottom line thesis of all of this work. Is you are a being called love, and you are designed to function as love. And we're here to support you in doing that. And as we move forward with those tools, we are open to your questions. As Jeanie said, you can go into the chat room, and you can ask questions there. Or you can call us, and when you call us, we are available at let's see, I have to look up the number because I actually don't have it memorized. But it is area code 646-200-4169. If you have a question for us, please call us. You can also listen to the show on this phone number, 646-200-4169. I'm the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our show is MindShifters Radio. David, are you there with us?
I am absolutely here with you, Michael. And how are you today?
I'm blessed and highly favored. How about you?
Likewise, my friend, likewise. Still winter here in Heartland. It's cool out today and expected to get up in the 80s by this weekend. And
nice.
Yeah, so, it's shifting just like everything else on the planet. It's shifting. And I wanted to let you know that we will have a guest on here today at some particular time. I'm not sure when he would like to come on, but Bill Greenfield is scheduled to be here today. Talk a little bit about how he's using the work at his life and his visit of doing the intensive. So at some point within he'll press the 1 to get into the chat to be able to ask some questions. And, I wanted to remind people, if they go to the website at www.whyagain.com, there is, on the right-hand side, there are a category of frequently asked questions. So some of the questions that people have been asking over the years are listed in the responses to them. So that's always helpful, when all of a sudden there may be something that's going on, then an opportunity to go there and to check on, what tool might I use or how would I handle this particular situation. It's really helpful.
Fabulous. Well, I know a little bit about Bill Greenfield's history, and for those who don't happen to know David, of course, David is a co-host who fills in, especially when we are out of the country or in a place where we're not accessible. And David is the director of Heartland Operations in Theodosia, Missouri, our teaching center. And why don't you share a little bit about Bill's history so that when he comes on, people will know who they're hearing from?
Oh, I'll be glad to do that. Actually, and he might add a little bit to it as well. Bill and I have been friends for, since 1986. I know exactly when it was. 1986 when I met him. He was was a co-director of a nonprofit organization for Vietnam veterans. Actually, for any veteran, mostly with veterans. He was a counselor there and a teacher, and I'd met him through one of the courses that he was teaching on prosperity out at First Church Unity in Nashville. And there was something about Bill that I resonated with him. He's one of those people that walks the walk, so to speak. That there was something that he had that I was drawn to, his integrity and his honesty and the work that he was doing. And he's been a mentor for me ever since then. And we've shared our lives together. I've been to his children's graduations and weddings, and we've been to funerals together, and we've laughed and we've cried, and he's just a dear friend. Him and his wife are living in Nashville, Tennessee, and he's been playing the game Building the Brain Cells. Actually, we've been doing personal development work since 1986. That's what as far as being together and doing it. So anytime that he wants to come on there, I could talk about him for quite a bit. He's a dear friend of mine and someone that's committed to doing his spiritual work. So I don't know, Jeanie, do you have him? Are you showing Bill on there?
He's not there yet. David, tell us a little bit about the program that you did for the veterans and just what that looked like.
We were a nonprofit organization that was started by actually Jerry Washington and another fellow, John Singfield, who was one of the first prisoners in Vietnam, POW, one of the first returning ones. And Jerry Washington was a psychologist and woke up one morning, looked around, wanted to figure out why he was in jail and why that there were so many Vietnam veterans in jail. And so he recognized what was going on, and he started a nonprofit organization called Base Camp for homeless veterans. And Bill became one of the staff members right away with it. He was on and we had a program where we worked with veterans with PTSD and dealing with alcohol and drug problems, and more so than just that, the cause and the root of them. So they had one of the most successful programs in the country as far as the success rate of people getting back to living a normal life and doing it inexpensively as well. The organization is actually still going on. It's just that Bill isn't affiliated with it as he was before. So it was a very successful program. It would have been really wonderful. Bill and I have talked about it several times. It would have really been wonderful to have the tools that you teach, Michael, and that I've learned through this. It's like, wow, what a shift and a difference I think we could have made with folks. And it's so available now. We're looking at working with more and more veterans, especially with all the veterans that are returning from Iraq, and it's just alarming to me to see and hear what it is that the veterans and their families are going through. So if there's anyone that's out there that's listening that has some questions in regards to that, we'll be glad to address those as well. So,
well, certainly the Americans who want to jump behind and go rah rah, let's go to war again, need to start really looking at, and of course it's kept well hidden this time around, because back in Vietnam it wasn't very popular when they saw what the real cost was in terms of human lives, and that real cost is exacerbated since Vietnam in terms of the stress, the suicide, the insane behaviors that are happening because of those stresses in the lives of those veterans. So we certainly hold the space for the healing of war on our planet, the healing of our veterans, and of course for the healing of every mind, heart, and being on the planet. People who aren't ever aware of it even are affected by what happens to these people on an energetic level and on some very direct levels that are still not really brought into awareness in terms of the cost to their pocketbooks and to their emotional well-being and to the well-being of their children. It's time for us to start to think about a world without war. And I think Jeanie just brought Bill Greenfield in. Welcome, Dr. Bill.
Well, welcome. It's good to be on your program today.
How are you, young man?
I am doing very well. I'm listening to you and David talk and going back in mind to that time of which you are discussing.
Uh-huh. And how about that young lady in your life? How's she doing?
She's doing exceptionally well. She is ensuring that we're both well nurtured and nourished now, preparing the evening meal.
Awesome. Very good. So tell us about some of your memories of that time that David and I are talking about, and how it looks to you now.
Well, it was a interesting time. Well, actually, my focus was on my own self-discovery. I happened to be there only under the direction of the Great Spirit, but it was a challenging time because there was so much pain and so much unaddressed issues. The DA was a swamp in the unanticipated fallout of the war, even as it is now, and they did not have adequate answers, and the frustration was that they weren't looking. At least the perception was that they weren't looking, and so they encouraged people like Jerry Washington and John Deering to start up these storefront agencies and to address the overflow of what they just could not handle. And I'm wondering why many years later we learned so slowly. But as David indicated, the confusion and the unaddressed issues continue.
Well, you go back a couple of thousand years, a gentleman who said, we see as though through a glass darkly. And when we look at situations through an hostile or a fearful mind, we break the first law, which is a law that said you keep the condition of love in your mind before you look at anything in order to keep your perception straight and your behavior on track. And if our minds are clouded by hostility, fear, prejudice, grief, and pain, it's really hard to see clearly, even though those whose minds are clean and clear see so clearly and explain it. It can't get into that mind clouded by hostility or fear. There's just not room for it, and that's one of the reasons why Jeanie and I travel the way we do and we were actually visiting with a drug court judge here in Pahrump, Nevada yesterday, and when I shared that our workshop, we were inviting folks from the drug court to come and participate, whether it's their staff or their participants, and he kind of looked at me with a little bit of a puzzled look in his face, and he's like, well, but you're not here for money? It's like, no, we're not here for money. And it was like, well, what do you say next? Because for most people, it's about show me the money. And, of course, we all have bills to pay, so it's nice when we get support from people. But I learned a long time ago I could only wear one pair of shoes, and so when I've got that pair of shoes on and my belly's full, what more do I need? And if I've got something that can benefit humanity, why would I put it under a bushel basket? Who would do that? And unfortunately, if we live in that mind that's clouded by hostility and fear, that's what we tend to do. And so our goal with this work is to deliver tools to people with which they can, on a very practical level, clean up their hostility and fear and get back to that mind of love where we start to function once again as human beings. And David's shared with me so many stories over the years from your time at base camp with him and the powerful processing and support that you would do with and be with people. And we'd love to hear a little bit about that and also then what you've seen since your visit to Heartland and how would it change? How would what you did back then change today, or how has it changed the way that you work with people, knowing that you continue to carry on and work with people in the Nashville area?
Well, back then I went to it shortly after I started at base camp. I went to my then Unity minister and asked her how to be effective when what's a variety of pain and a multiplicity of issues, and she told me then, Bill, just see them as they are. And of course, she spoke in those wonderful phrases. I had no idea at the time what she was talking about. Subsequently, I've learned she was telling me to see them as the wonderful, holy, loving children of God as they are, already free of that which is encumbering them. That process of seeing people as they are is what has accompanied, what has driven me for the quite a few years. And coming to Heartland helped me to expand my field of vision. And I was grateful for that. I took a course, an intensive there called Course in Miracles, which invited me to see people as they are and not as they appear to be. And since then, I worked on a national prayer line, praying with people for deliverance from a variety of afflictions. And I am privileged to be able to see people as they are, and to know that no matter what they're describing to me, it is a construct of their mind, their frustration being that things are not happening the way they thought they would, and they're frustrated and they're angry and they're fearful. And I encourage them that they're to be as they were created to be, and to trust the guidance that will appear if they will cease to struggle. And Heartland has encouraged me to do that, and occasionally when I lose my way and surrounded by confusion, creates confusion. So I'm glad for the Why Again material. I opened a book daily to remind myself of basic principles, and they accompany me, and it's kind of like being a guide in the jungle. It's helpful to know the markers of where the trail is and what is ahead. And I'm grateful for Heartland for keeping me centered and focused.
That's a great way to say it, a marker on the trail, because that's for sure what it is. And for those who've been listening to the show regularly, what Bill is talking about when he says seeing people as they really are and seeing the truth about them, he's talking about the Aramaic definition of humility. You know, the Greeks taught us humility is kind of like groveling in the earth like a worm, but in the Aramaic, humility is a mental quality that we can develop, and that is the ability to see the highest and best in another. And as we see that on an energetic level, we literally create an energy field that supports that coming forward. You know, I created a program about 25 years ago for a school in Delray, Florida, at the Unity Center there. And the program was called Lessons in Living. And the first lesson that we offered the children, and this is from kindergarten to grade 8, and we were actually in Delray recently and talking to some parents, and that program still goes on, and the influence that it has had throughout the whole community. And the first lesson was, when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone. And it's time for us to start waking up the love in each other, to start waking up the human life. And so I acknowledge you for doing that, Bill, and for holding the high watch for so long, for so many years, because your work with the base camp program, that goes back 20, 25 years now?
I started there in 1984, and I spent about 15 years there. And the work goes on even though the association has ended.
Awesome. David, do you have a thought for Bill?
Well, one of the things that came up for me when we first started talking about this is when we were talking about veterans and how these things got started and people waking up, and when you were talking about the public, or I'll say the civilian life, let me put it that way, about our culture, our society waking up to what is the effect of war that is having. I attended a lot of meetings with Bill, and one of the statistics that grabbed my attention at that particular time, because I went there to be working on myself, as Bill talked about, my purpose was to do my work, and I saw a venue for doing that with base camp. And one of the statistics that I heard at that particular time, and again, this is back in 86, was that at that particular time there were confirmed over 60,000 Vietnam veterans that had committed suicide. That those were the ones that were documented, not the ones that were gone, just put down, not even addressed. And there were over 68,000 men and women that died in Vietnam, Americans. There were well more than that with the Vietnamese. And that was an alarming figure to me, because I, being a Vietnam veteran, and I had recognized that passing things on to my children was part of the work that I was doing. I had made the commitment in 1984 that I was going to change my bloodline. I didn't call it my bloodline. I said I was going to change things with my children, and instead of passing that on. So when I heard that statistic, I was really alarmed by it. The last that I heard of that statistic for Vietnam veterans, and I don't know what it is for the Iraqi veterans. I know that there was over 200,000 Vietnam veterans that have committed suicide. And I thought about that, and with my work there in base camp, I was witness to a couple of veterans, children's, that the veteran had committed suicide and their children had committed suicide. So I invite people to take and wake up that this thing of hiding and keeping it hidden of, oh, well, it's going to work out. The only way that it's going to work out is do it, as Bill was talking about, practicing the principles by seeing the love in everyone and seeing the true essence, rather than focusing on all this anger and hostility and vengeance and the slaughters and the killings that continue to go on. So that should open up, if people are listening out there, it's probably, it may not bring any comfort to them right now to hear this information, and through it, my intention is to open the space for people to start looking at and what they can do, and to use these tools in this program in order to begin that healing.
Well, and you look at the ancient scriptures, and they said, and they were speaking about physics now, and they were speaking about genetics. They said, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. And what the cell biologists are now proving, what the geneticists are now proving, is that these traumas are genetically passed to the next generation. Now, of course, that's been known for 2,000 years. 5 or 6 years ago, the geneticists started to be able to verify this, and it became a very exciting discovery. If you want to look into that, we've recommended this video several times, but you might want to Google the video. Jeanie just tells me that there's a link on the website under links that you can just click and watch this video on genetics. What they're talking about is called the ghost in your genes. Watch that video linked on our website. And our website is www.whyagain.com. Watch the ghost in your genes, and they're talking about how these stresses, and in this particular video, they don't address the stresses of war. They actually talk about the 9/11 experience. They do speak about prisoners in the prison camps during the Holocaust in World War II. But the cost of this country of war, when people get behind it and start going rah, 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 it's usually the people who haven't been there, that do that. And it's time to wake up. And even those who have done it, wake up, folks. What are you doing to your bloodline? What are you doing to your family? What are you doing to our world? Oh, but we need to make the world safe for baloney, baloney, baloney. It's all a fraud. It's all about how do we get somebody else's property? How do we get what we want? It's time to wake up. It's time for us to start. I promise you, we're 1,000 times more powerful if we go into a circumstance or a situation as human beings, as love, and we start to speak and we start to behave. We start to think and we start to act from love. Looking through a glass darkly, and in the Aramaic, that glass was called hostility or fear. What we know from our laws of living work and our work from the ancient Aramaic is that if you're looking through a mind that has a filter called fear set, the only thing that you can see about your object of attention is that which is threatening. And so, of course, when one looks through fear and they see what is threatening, then the result is obviously going to be attack. How about if we started to put negotiators? How about if we started to put military personnel through the process of forgiveness and of healing? And the people who make those decisions, if we had them walking into their circumstances with a mindset that followed what Yeshua called the first law, with a mindset of love, if they were looking through that filter, instead of seeing what was threatening about their object of attention and wanting to retaliate out of their fear, they'd be coming forward and seeing what was loving about their object of attention. And when human beings, whether it's in a marriage or a business situation or a war, when human beings start to see each other as human beings, that is, they have humility for each other, then we start to shift, we start to change. The same kind of results as you guys were getting in base camp. These people who lived lives of irresolvable trauma start to move out of their trauma, and they start to be able to move back to normal human lives. But without the tools, without the awareness, it doesn't happen, and we can short-circuit this whole game. Now, unfortunately, there are trillions of dollars to be made by sending people in fear so that the answer is let's go to war. It's time for the game to stop. It's time for it to change. It's time to be a country and a world that functions lawfully. And the first law is that of love. First law. And yes, you can tell me all about how threatened you feel. And before you start making any decisions, let's get you back to a mindset of love and let's see what happens. Things are going to change. And it's time for them to change. Because, folks, we can't afford to do this anymore. We can't afford to do this with the cost to our children. We can't afford to do this to the cost to our families, these veterans' wives and husbands that bring this trauma back, the genetics that are passed on to the next generation. We can't afford to do this anymore. It's time for it to stop. It's time for us to wake up, and it's time for us to function as human beings. And I acknowledge you, David, having been a warrior, having been in the thick of that, having been in a mind of hostility that saw that as a solution to life. And I acknowledge you, especially I remember the day and the look on your face when you said, I am going to give up hostility. I will do this. And how you've worked at that and how you've moved that forward and how you've done that is awesome. And it's a bigger contribution and, of course, a bigger challenge than most people could ever imagine.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. And I do have Bill Greenfield to thank for it because we don't have time to tell all of the different stories and the experiences that we had. And Bill lives in Nashville, and I live here in Missouri, and we talk every day, we communicate every day, and we hold the space every day for this healing. And I'm so grateful that he came and visited 2 years ago. He came and did the intensive because it was like it opened up another level and space for him and I to connect and to continue to do our work. And it takes, Bill taught me so much about having support and the willingness to be able to support each other in the work that we're doing. And thank you very much, Bill, for always being there and always being supportive. We have many, many tales and experiences to laugh and to talk about, and some intense moments and some real breakthrough moments with it. I thank you for being my friend and being on this support team of healing. So,
well, I appreciate the opportunity to play the game called Building the Brain Cells. I was thinking the other day, I was listening to the news. I try not to listen to too much of it, but I want to keep up with what's happening. And I was just awestruck about what was happening in Libya. And I remember that same feeling that when I was sitting in a restaurant and heard that they had started dropping bombs in Iraq during the first introduction there. And it occurred to me that what I've been hearing at a church I attend, they close by singing, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me." And so it finally struck me, thank you for David for the brain cells game, that I could start looking with love. I did not need to wait for the people in Washington to have an aha moment. I could start looking with intentional love on all the people that I interacted with. Because of my job, I talk to 100 new people every day, and I could view their love, their trauma, their animosity, their fear, their goings-on, with the idea that they still following the guidance to see them as they are. And I've been practicing that. And the neat thing about it, that for me to see them as holy, loving children of God, that makes me one too. And it changes daily my experience of life. So thank you, Heartland. Thank you, David.
Oh, my pleasure, my friend. It's fun. What else is there to do?
Okay.
So, anything else that you'd like to add, Bill?
I think you've covered it well. I could go down memory lane and talk about this and that occasion, but as great as it was, it's not as great as it is right now, and so I tend to stay focused on what's happening, thankful for all the things that have prepared me to appreciate this present moment. And thank you for letting me be on your radio show.
Oh, well, stick around. Stay on there. There may be some callers or some questions that are coming in. We'll check with Jeanie, see if anybody's in the chat room that has any comments or thoughts about what it is that we've addressed so far today. So if you'll stay on there, well, then somebody may have a question for you about the building the brain cells and or the veterans or the work that you're doing.
Okay. Bill, maybe you could share a little bit about your experience of building the brain cells, exactly how it impacted you and exactly what you've experienced with it.
Well, I'll be glad to mention it briefly. David invited me to participate, to carry the experience of Heartland yet another further. I've gone to lots of workshops, and of course, the challenge of perpetuating growth and change comes at the end of the workshop. And as so many of them, I've heard my co-participants say, well, now it's time to go back to the real world. And I've always averred, well, this is the real world. But they're up until Heartland, the experience I've had there had not been a lot of tools. I had seen workshops attempt to establish small groups of support to maintain the energy that was created there. But building the brain cells invites me to interact individually with the wisdom and with the tools personally on a daily basis, and it puts me in contact with others who are having the same experience. It does not require me to travel physically to meet other people or to interact with them, but to interact with them on an energetic level and to share my perceptions on a daily level by computer or by telephone or what have you. And so it has perpetuated the growth that was quickened 2 years ago when I was there. And, of course, I've been sharing it with other people, and they are benefiting from wisdom that it was not original with me, but is daily presented to me by my what I call my the Christ within. So it's been a real good experience. It has changed. It has broadened me and enabled me to deal at a higher level with the minutiae of life. I don't get bogged down in negative thinking. I don't get sidetracked into the stuff of life. I answered a telephone call the other day, and I was in a playful mood, and the guy, I gave the standard introduction. Thank you for calling, and my name is Bill, and how may I help you? And he says, well, I'm bipolar. I said, well, good, I am too. And he said, well, I've had some drinking problems. I said, I know what you're talking about. I have too. And then since he couldn't get me to buy into his victim story, we had a little bit more honest communication. And that was made possible by the Building the Brain Cells game.
Awesome. Very cool.
Story.
Yes.
And we've found that people who are officially bipolar are people who are simply suffering from conflicting goals, not from any kind of victimhood from the world. And when they start cleaning up and doing the forgiveness process, it tends to just dissipate, fall apart, and disappear. So,
well, he asked me, are you taking any medication? I said, no, I decided on spiritual growth. I decided, and I told him, if you're not going to be serious about spiritual growth, then you better keep on taking that medication. But I advise against it.
Oh, Bill, you're such a trip. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Well, that's the wonderful part about connecting with Bill on a daily basis is that we get to express what it is and play back to each other the different interactions that we've had that day, how we've used the tool. And sometimes we may spend 30 seconds and sometimes we may spend 10 or 15 minutes just processing through what it is that's come up for me, what it is that I've learned, what it is that he's learned from that. And that's, that is life. If we're not learning something, if we're not, what's our purpose here? That's the self-exploration of what does this mean to me? Often when we get on the show here, when I invite people, that this is called the MindShifters Talk Radio. We're here not to get you to think the way that it is that we think. We're getting you here. We invite you to take a look and see what you think. See what you want to shift in your mind. And in talking with Bill, each day I get to practice those principles. I get to take a look at and also be accountable to someone other than myself, because on my own, I'll let myself off the hook more times than I'll hold myself accountable. I just have figured it out, I know how to keep from doing things. I know how to, that game of non-being has got millions and millions of lies, and I need to have some support there that's going to point out to me, David, it sounds like you got some worksheets to do. It sounds like you've got an issue. No one else has the issue. So in doing that, then, wow, it just works. It just works with it. So we invite people to call in at 646-200-4169. And if you have a question or comment to Bill or Michael, myself, Jeanie, or anyone else that's listening, then what it is that we've been talking about today, does this make any sense to you? See, this is the challenge that we are offering everyone that's listening in, you have an opinion, you have a thought about this, and we invite you to challenge what it is that, not what we believe and what we think, how it is that you see it. Does this make sense for you? If it makes sense for you, then talking about it sometimes will solidify it, that it'll embed it into like, oh yeah, well that does make sense. When we're in our mind, within the mind just finds ways to agree about things and to let it go. And as Bill talked about, this game here continues to support me. I love what Bill came up with when we talk. He will often say, well, my agreements kept me today. I kept my agreements, and my agreements kept me, because that's a piece of that. So I told you I was going to use that one, Bill, and I like that one a lot. When I keep my agreements keep me. So.
Well, what I really appreciate about the ongoing work is while we have an agreement to talk daily, the special awarenesses that I wake up with in the morning that are inexpressible. And it takes me 2 or 3 days to find the words to share with someone else, and it's good to have someone else with an open ear, common values, that when I can find the words to mumble about the inexpressible, that there is that opportunity there. Because as your listening audience will get serious about their lives and deciding to live happily and fully in a non-defensive posture, opportunities to awaken will come daily and come quickly. And so I know that what awaits them is better than anything that has gone before, and I invite them to come play. It's a wonderful game, and there are no losers.
That's true. It's so true. Cool. Very nice. So, Jeanie, is anyone in the chat room, anyone else online that would like to make a comment or a thought?
There's several people sitting out there, but everybody's just, oh, wait, some hands have gone up. So first let's...
They usually take my challenge. Someone does.
Okay. Well, 815, you're on the air. Who do we have? And it looks like you're from Illinois.
This is Tim Hayes again.
Hi, Dr. Tim.
Hey, Dr. Tim.
I just wanted to call in and echo the idea that it is a whole new world out there. We all have access to it. And I have several people in my caseload right now who've also been diagnosed with the label bipolar disorder and come in with a number of different medications. And when they do the work and they do it in earnest and they keep applying it, they wake up one day and realize they aren't the label, and they quite often either decrease or no longer need the medications. So it is a whole new world out there, and this work can usher us into it if we will grab hold of it, the tools, and use them.
Amen. I'll second that one.
Because of what I do, and this is Bill again, I do talk to a lot of people who are particularly feeling victimized, and I remind those, particularly those who have accepted the label of Christian, that their doctrine tells them that they are more than conquerors, that we are supposed to do more than our teacher taught us to do. He said in John 14 that we will do greater things than these. And I invite them to get on with it and take him at his word and to leave all that other stuff behind. And I encourage, if there happens to be a few of those people listening today, I'd love to hear your comments.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got Lady Jane from Indiana. How are you today, young lady?
I'm fine, thank you. I wanted to comment on the vibrations and feel of Bill. I had met him on David's brain cell on Sunday evening. Several times I heard him, and I just fascinated with what he has to say. And then it dawned on me I'm fascinated with what Dr. Tim and David and Michael and Jeanie, and there's such a feeling here of of sharing and love with no superiority going on, like we're equal and in that state. And that's a wonderful thing, a great support group. So I'm just acknowledging all of us, and particularly you, Bill, right now.
Yeah, we're definitely all
thank you, and thank you, Michael, for making it possible.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to pass the tools along, to be able to share them, and to share them freely, to be able to get around the planet and to so many corners that we get to go and bring the tools forward and watch. It always just amazes me how the awesome presence of love in each person, when it's tapped on the shoulder, awakens and starts to shift and change life. And it moves it out of. And, of course, that's why we call the support groups and our radio show MindShifters Radio. So you are listening to MindShifters Radio, and if you are interested in making a comment or coming on the show with a question, if you're doing the worksheet process, and we suggest that it's about doing the worksheet process. It's not about knowing about forgiveness. It's about doing it. If you're not familiar with the worksheet process, please jump on our website, www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, click the link that says Download Worksheets. And then there's a link for a new Chapter 24 in my book. That's an explanation of how to do the worksheet. And the second link is the worksheet itself. Put the pen to the paper. Watch what happens. It's awesome. And if you have a question or a comment, our phone number to call in is 646-200-4169, 646-200-4169. We would love to hear from you. Hey, Terry, welcome. And Terry's probably on mute, but Terry Bowling, I assume he's going to unmute his phone in a moment because Jeanie just clicked him in. And Terry is is our resident artist at Heartland and contractor, and he's out in Asheville, North Carolina right now. How goes the game out there, Terry? Well, we're not hearing from Terry, so his phone's showing up, but oh well. Anyway,
Hello?
Well, there he is. There he is. We found.
Okay. All right, it was my mute button. Yeah, I was going back and forth on that, yes.
There you go.
Welcome.
How are things in Asheville?
They're pleasant, cool, lots of opportunities for forgiveness work, and today, and as in every day, and looking forward to getting back to Heartland. And
you're heading back in our direction when, Terry?
Hopefully Friday. That's the target.
And so you're planning to be back on Saturday. So reminder, if anybody wants to come and help get the facility ready, we're open to you coming to join us and help to get Heartland ready for the summer season this year. Terry will be back. David's there, and things are moving forward.
Yeah. Good to hear Bill on the radio show today.
Lady Jane,
cool having him on there, isn't it? Yeah, I think we'll have him as a regular guest every Wednesday. I know he's off on Wednesdays, so I might get him commit to that. When he makes one of those agreements with me, he's trapped in. It's like, oh, gee whiz. So he's very careful. Actually, Bill was the one that taught me that many years ago. He says, you might want to look at how many agreements that you're making there, David. And then I learned through Michael's work about making agreements and setting goals for a daily basis. So it's very cool, very cool. And it is. Go ahead.
I was going to say, David, it might be worth looking at the regulatory speech that goes with agreements. Trapped. That might be a worksheet or two to take a look at.
Okay, thank you. I will look at that.
Cool. Some of the things that are happening out in the Las Vegas area, for anybody who's listening from Las Vegas, tomorrow night we'll be at a medical center called Healthcare Partners in Pahrump, Nevada. And you can pick up the flyer on www.whyagain.com. But tomorrow night, 7 to 9:30, we'll be doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And on Tuesday, April the 5th, we'll be doing that workshop again here at Healthcare Partners Medical Center. And then we'll be doing a 2-day intensive this weekend at Dr. Andraki's home, actually, a place out here in the desert that he calls the Sun-Baked Retreat Center. He and his wife, Claudia, run that. And so we'll be doing a 2-day stress seminar, Getting the Stress You Need, with MindShifters, Still Point Breathing, Forgiveness. So that'll be happening this weekend. And then beginning on the 10th of April, we'll be at Unity Center in the Valley in Las Vegas. We'll be doing their Sunday service at Sunday morning at 10 o'clock on Sunday, April 10th. And then from 1 to 4:30, we'll be doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night, we'll be doing a 2.5-hour free workshop each evening. Purpose, Personal Power, and Commitment on Monday. Empowered to Heal on Wednesday. Naturopathic Keys to Health on Thursday. And Laws of Living on Friday. And then we're following up with a 2-day codependence to interdependence intensive, where we'll be getting into, again, the forgiveness process. This is going to be at a place called Delight's Hot Springs Resort in Tacoma, California. An awesome place with hot springs to soak in, and they have spa services available, as well as we'll be doing the workshop, of course, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It's part of everything we do. We'll be doing the workshop on creating consciously. We'll be looking at abundance issues, and then codependence to interdependence, MindShifters, and Still Point Breathing. So that'll be the weekend of April 16th and 17th at Delight Hot Springs Resort in Tacoma, California.
And we have a 954.
And Jeanie has a call. 954, you're on the air. What's your name?
Hello, this is Nene.
Well, hello, Nene. How are you, young lady?
I'm very blessed and happy.
Good for you. What's happening in your world? What do you have to share?
Well, I would like to share the magnificence of this work, of the true forgiveness. Today I had this interview that appeared in my life as I started to use the tools. And it was very interesting, Michael, because I got to the TV station and they had a problem. They were delayed with my interview and delayed, and I had to wait for more than 3 hours. And while I was waiting, I was just, doing my breathing and just staying calm. But I noticed that my calm, my peace was for real. So finally, the gentleman came and, they gave me this beautiful offer. They said we need to sit down again. But first of all, I got a beautiful offer with this TV channel in Miami.
Awesome.
And yes, great. And then they said that, we need to talk more time. But unfortunately, they didn't have the, they were busy. Their schedule was a little bit off. And I said, okay, and I wrapped up the conversation very well. And then he looked at me and he said that he admired that in no moment I went in like, okay, I didn't go into any fear or any hostility saying like, you're wasting my time or we have to cancel this or you don't, any of that. He was so impressed that I was in such a space of compassion and understanding. And,
all right.
And this is who I am. I'm so thrilled and so happy.
And you
nice
deserve
work.
it.
Yeah, you've been, and that's just part of the fruit of your work. That's exactly what the work is about, yes. And you're getting to reap the fruits of what you've been sowing, and that's awesome. It's nice to be able to sow constantly.
Great. And also I wanted to share that I have one of my students in the dancing that he's a widow, and he was carrying a lot of burden of his pain. I started talking to him about my true forgiveness and the mental and memory cellular cleaning up. And he opened himself. He's 82 years old, and he was brave enough to open to the new ideas. And he thanked me because for the first time in almost a year that he lost his wife, he's feeling a little bit more in peace.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Isn't it awesome what a human being can do?
Yes. Yeah. So I encourage everybody to watch those DVDs, to do the worksheets, to do everything. I do it daily.
And it shows.
Yeah, and you're
Yes,
you're getting that. You're just like everybody on the planet. You're getting exactly what you deserve.
Yes.
Nice
So
work.
hooray for everybody.
Well, I acknowledge you for your work, and you've been now what? It was early January that you were introduced to the work, and I've watched you just dig in, take those worksheets, do them, do your work, and the shifts and changes, and you are awesome. And I'm delighted, and I know Jeanie is too, to be on your support team in this process of healing and the journey of sharing it. And so we acknowledge you and thank you for sharing it and putting out to others. And we'll look forward to seeing you at Teachers Training this summer.
Yes, things are manifesting perfectly, and me too. I look forward to being there with you.
Awesome. You told your prospective employer. You've told your prospective new employer that you've got a commitment for that time period?
Well, I'm going to do that on Friday, that when we sit down with more calm, because, today they were a little bit off their schedule. But, yes, I will. That's part of them, what they admire.
Fabulous. Nice work.
Okay.
Awesome.
We've got 4 minutes.
Great.
Well, down to 4 minutes. Any closing thoughts for you, Nene?
Yes. I just realized that how it is to work every day on our cleansing, the spiritual work, because it's part of that oneness. The physicality, our minds, our thoughts, and that bathing into the love and the magnificence really attracts other energies into your life. And I'm splitting this seed everywhere with my family, with my friends, and I see the difference. And I encourage everybody to do different reading, to live differently.
Great, thank you. And Bill, any last thoughts from you? Once again, I acknowledge you for your response. I hope it's not copyrighted. I hope I'll be able to use that response when somebody talks about medication. And that, that's really powerful to say, and I decided to do my spiritual work instead. And if you're not serious about doing your spiritual work, you better stay on that medication. And so it's, you can stay balanced one way or the other. One of them will poison people to death. One of them will wake them up and take them into a state that somebody a few thousand years ago said it was the state humans were designed to live in, and that was the kingdom of love. That's where we're designed to live as human beings.
Well, I want to amen and nay. I tell people quite often that the spiritual cleansing, which we reserve for once, maybe twice a week, it needs to be done as daily, even more often than the physical cleansing. We would not think going a day or two without nurturing and nourishing ourselves, but we take for granted that we will be all right. And spiritual cleansing on a daily basis and the spiritual nurturing on a daily basis is what makes us human. Thank you for supporting my humanity.
Absolutely. Here we are, supporting each other in love.
Definitely. And just the way you plan to take a shower every day, you wash your mind every day. You do your spiritual work, and you arrive at the destination. And it's a reliable, systematic way of doing that. David, do you have any thoughts before we close? We're down to about 2 minutes here. 1 minute. 1 minute. We've got David and Terry in the closing comment.
Well, my closing comment is in a thank you to Bill for being my friend and my support, and for being on here today, and we invite you to come back and to play some more. And Nanette, as well, I think it's just wonderful that the energy that you're adding to everything. And Dr. Tim, thank you so very much. I just read that little text from you, and for Jeanie and Michael and for Terry, and I look forward to your return, Terry. And we have just about a minute, so thank you, everyone, for listening and being part of that. Go to the website, whyagain.com, and check us out. That's it.
Terry, any comments to close out from you?
Okay, I'm all clear here, ready to go.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we hold the space for each of you that is listening, and we invite you to support us by notifying other people about the power of our radio show here, of the forgiveness process that we're offering. Please pass it on. Share it with someone else. And there's a wonderful African proverb I love to quote often that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we are delighted to be traveling this path with each and every one of you. We hold you in a blessing, and we hold that you are about to have the absolute best year yet of your eternal life. Jeanie?
Take care. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Namaste.
Namaste.